Welcome to Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact. Each episode, we will cover legacy, hope, Black joy, funding sources, cultural shifts, equity, and so much more. We will provide inspiration and action while spreading some joy to a thriving community of Black business owners and leading thought leaders. Black Business Matters podcast is produced by the L3 Agency, a culturally sensitive influencer marketing and communications firm in Chicago, where relationships are our currency, passion is our profit maker, and people are our bottom line. I'm Larvetta Lofton, your host and founder of the L3 Agency. Welcome to another episode of Black Businesses Matter. I am super excited to have our next guest, Anna Mitchell of Gobble Dogs, and that's dogs with two G's. It's amazing that we get to hear from the owner, but before we go into what is Gobble Dogs, we want to talk about her journey to get there. She started off as a PR and communications professional, and now she's a caterer, she's a food truck, and she is being, I like to say, really kind of like a disruptor to it because she is providing other premium options to hot dogs. And so for many of us that like the hot dog, beef, and pork, she has options for those of us who don't eat beef, and I don't eat beef and I don't eat pork. So I am super excited about this opportunity to share her journey with everyone else, but then to just learn how did she start Gobble Dogs. So Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, and we're excited. So tell us about how does a reporter literally, right, from PR and communications, telling amazing stories about various businesses to now starting your own business and making an impact in the community?
It was actually kind of like a fluke. Had a good girlfriend who needed me to man the food portion of her daughter's birthday party. I agreed to do it, providing that I could serve food that I enjoyed. I had cut out beef and pork from my diet maybe about 15 years plus prior. So we knew that we wanted to have something that did not include any beef or pork, and she was fine with it. The mindset at that time was that we wanted to do something that was going to be a quick and easy cleanup. So we wanted to do something that was going to be fun for the kids. And what kid doesn't love a hot dog, right? But we also knew that we had to feed the adults. And so instead of trying to order like a bucket of chicken or some pizza or something like that for the adults, I played around with the toppings and I thought, you know what, we can do, kids just love either a plain or a ketchup on their dog. And for the adults, we can make it a bit more gourmet. So we had the Chicago style, we had the chili cheese, and then I started playing around with it and then making up these little ingredients. And I had like the savory dog, which is sauteed onions and garlic, topped with Parmesan and cheddar cheese and bacon. And then, of course, our famous California dog, which is a pico de gallo with an avocado, poblano, jalapeno pepper sauce. And it just went over so well. My girlfriend was just like, Anna, I think you have something here. This is, you might want to pursue this. And didn't give it much thought at first. And then I thought, why not? So started doing catering around town and it just kind of like blew up from there.
Wow. I want to make sure that people really understand, like, did you know you were going to be an entrepreneur, or this literally just morphed into entrepreneurship?
I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know what journey I was going to be taking. See, prior to this, I had played around with a bunch of different small business. I used to have a PR business, wordplay communications. I used to have a little fashion t-shirt. I used to do soap. I used to do, you remember the Santa books that had the personalized Santa books?
I do.
I sold that. I mean, I have probably run the whole gamut of what an entrepreneur could do. Any small business there was, I thought of. And I have to be honest, I wasn't good at those. I just wasn't good at it. And so, after a while, you settle into being at your job. And I think for me, I realized that this wasn't something that I wanted to do. You know, the 9 to 5 is great. It provides you with all the benefits that most people look for in a job. But for me, I just wanted something more. And it probably didn't help that my parents were entrepreneur spirited. My mother made couches, made earrings. She and my dad made earrings. She even sold, believe it or not, Cabbage Patch dolls, or her version of it, which were these little rag dolls. They were so cute, though. They were these dolls that she put together with any types of cloth and stuff. And so she had that. And then, of course, my father, while he did have his 9 to 5 job, he also had a skill set. He was an electrician, carpenter, as well as a plumber, but he worked as a security guard for one of the local factories in the Chicagoland area. So it was always there. The seed had already been planted watching our parents. But interestingly, when I told my parents that I wanted to pursue this full time, they were, no, you get a good job. You don't want to lose those benefits. So
Girl,
they love the idea.
Right. It's always about the benefits, right? That is the number one thing. Like, don't lose that good job. Like that good job, you need that good job. That is like,
yes.
And Anna, when you said to your parents, I want to go back to that because I think it's important. Like, hey, I'm about to launch my business. And they were like, no. And they were already entrepreneurs. And they were like, no. Like, what was that resistance? Where did that come from?
Well, I think, you have to look at God bless their soul. They're both passed on, but the age. This year, my parents would be, next month, my mom and my dad, they would have been 81 years old. So you think back to that time period. They come from a time period where it's great that you have a side gig that helps you, but, the 9 to 5 is what pays the bills. And my mother was actually a stay-at-home mom. So she had the luxury of, playing around with different small businesses that she wanted to do. But, my dad, he wanted to make sure that we always had health insurance. There was a pension on the table, that, there was always income coming in. Because, as an entrepreneur, I could tell you some days where I only made $5 for that day. Yeah. But you have to keep at it. So unfortunately, they didn't see me quit my job because they had both passed on. In fact, I actually quit my job about a year after my father passed. Wow. Despite the naysayers, it was a difficult period, but I knew that I needed to do it because if I didn't do it now, I would always have that woulda, shoulda, coulda. And I just refused to do that.
Yeah. First of all, I want to congratulate you on that bravery because I think
thank you.
It takes courage to be able to step out. People don't understand the amount of courage it takes to leave something that is, stable to something that's so unstable.
Right.
It's so hard. And I think, sometimes we all make it easy as entrepreneurs, like, oh, I can do this. But when things are not, today was a bad week, or, today was a bad day or a bad week, or there's been a bad month, it's hard to fathom that. And so when I think about, Gobble Dogs and you really providing, I think premium options for, those who love hot dogs. And it's actually an open market. So when you launched that, did you discover how very much it is fairly open and that there aren't, there are not a lot of places where you can get that level of a premium dog?
Oh, absolutely. When I started doing my market research on this, you realize this is $1 billion
research. I just want to say that because people don't understand the importance of that. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. You absolutely have to know you have to know the market that you're going into. That's first and foremost, because you have to make sure that it's a viable option, that you have to look at your competition. You have to look at all of that. And, we just know that Gobble Dogs, listen to me, hot dogs is just $1 billion business. People enjoy dogs. Oh my goodness. They probably eat more dogs than they do hamburgers because it's just an easier food to eat, if you will. So when I started looking at this, I said, you know what? I noticed that, and this is really even more interesting what I'm about to share with you. So I noticed that, of course, the trend, the vegetarian dogs and the turkey dogs, and we also sell vegetarian dogs as well. I noticed, yes. And so I noticed that, I could find all the market research on, just dogs in general, but there wasn't a specific market that I could find for turkey hot dogs. That I had gone through Kraft, I had gone through all the major ones that were producing turkey hot dogs, but couldn't find the market. So then I relied on that little thing called my gut that told me that this would work.
The guts. Man, that guts, if we could just rely on that for the rest of our lives, wouldn't we just be amazing? So that's an important thing, that really rely on your gut. And that's what you did. Oh my gosh.
I can't even begin to tell you that, while my parents said were always supporters of anything that we did, they wanted to promote us. They wanted us to make sure that, we got the most fulfillment out of whatever journey we took, providing that I still kept my 9 to 5 and I kept the benefits and healthcare benefits and stuff. But I remember being in grad school and I decided to use my business as a case study. I had just started the business. And I'll never forget, when I had talked to my classmates about it, they were just like, I think you need to add this. People aren't going to want to eat turkey hot dogs. They're not going to want to do the. I mean, I had a bunch of naysayers. And for those who can be easily swayed by individuals, and I'll talk about this later, I'm a firm believer that you keep your ideas and your views to yourself until you have fully fleshed it out and you are ready to present it to the world. You keep that to yourself, because there is nothing worse than even the people who are supporting you, who really believe in you. Because even my parents, I mean, I'm certain that they didn't want any ill will from me and they wanted me to be successful. But sometimes people's words, they plant that seed of doubt. But I even remember I did, my business as a case study and kind of followed it up with some of the other hot dogs. And I'll never forget my professor telling me, I actually still have it written down and I keep it very close by it whenever I start to get down. Mm-hmm. He told me, this is very idealistic. Nobody is going to want to buy turkey hot dogs. Why would kids want those? And I think it just added fuel to the fire. And I was just like, oh, okay, really? And so, here we are. We've been in business since 2012 and there has been no stopping us. Even through the pandemic, we still maintain.
Yeah. And let's talk about that place of, thriving through the pandemic and thriving beyond, because what we know to be true is that food went up, right? Food, the one thing that we were buying, whether we were getting it from the grocery store, whether we were ordering it at our, favorite local restaurant, people were eating. I know I did. Some of us gained a whole but nevertheless, we were finding, I think for many people, we were finding joy in the food. Like, okay, I would be like, what am I going to order this week? So thriving through that, how did you guys thrive in it and now are continuing to grow?
Right. So that was just kind of like it was a scary period, I will admit, because I didn't know what the fate of Gobble Dogs was going to be. They weren't very clear about how food trucks could operate during the pandemic. So, it was just kind of like dubious as to whether, we could actually have the truck out there. And if we could have the truck out there, what were the guidelines? So we didn't get a chance to use our truck. And then we also have a location inside of the LaSalle Street Metro station. And with the Metro riders, the ridership had declined almost 95%. We weren't having anyone come in. So we had to pivot. We had to think about, how are we going to get our dogs out? How are we going to stay in business? And actually, I had to be as resourceful as I possibly could. So we relied on delivery services. We relied on family drop-offs. We had to try and make it as innovative as possible. And then when sales were just, abysmal, we had to shop for people. I mean, I had to do that for a while. So, you do what you have to do in order to stay in business, because we were just so unclear on how this whole pandemic was going to affect us. I saw so many businesses that had been in business for years and years go out of business. And so here I am, still relatively new, because mind you, I had the business since 2012 and I was operating on the weekends. And, if I got a really good gig, would take the days off from work. But I left my job in 2016 to pursue this thing full time. So I didn't have the weight under me like some of these other businesses that had been in business for 10, 15, 20 plus years, full time. So to see them go out of business, to see, what their fate was, I mean, it scared the hell out of me. I mean, let's just be honest. I was scared because I'm just like, is all this for naught? But I just knew I'm at that protected age group, if you will. And I knew that trying to go back into corporate America was not an option. So I had to figure it out. And that's exactly what I did.
And let me ask you this. Did you have e-commerce online? So did you all have a web presence during the pandemic?
We did not have an e-commerce online. And that was one of the things that I was working on. And we could not get that together as well as we wanted to. So I had to rely on social media to kind of get it out, get the message out about what we were doing, and word of mouth. And then, of course, the database from our POS system.
Okay. But here's what I get from that is that you had the tools in place, you just hadn't implemented them. And COVID allowed for you to say, hey, this stuff has to move to the front, right? It can't be on the back shelf. And I think that, that's how we get to thrive. I think sometimes as business owners, oftentimes, I'm going to get to that, right? And it just says, nope, that's going to be something that you have to get to. I love that your transition for 4 years, right? You started in 2012, but you didn't quit. And that's really good for people to hear. Like, work that 9 to 5, as you, I used to say, as you work through that, when you get home to that 5 p.m. to 9 a.m., because that's what it is when you're able to do that. And I think it's good for people to understand that. Now, you're coming from a home of, entrepreneurs. And so knowing that background in building business, and you were quoted, which I read an article that you were featured in, and you said Black businesses matter. And
they absolutely do. So when you look at the number of Black businesses that are here, there are far fewer than there ever should be, considering how much we spend. The money doesn't travel through our community, but what is it? Literally seconds, so just that alone tells you that Black businesses matter. We don't have any representation. And, I've always recognized that, which is why, and I know you'll probably get to it later, but I do just want to mention it that, even as a small business owner, we have reached into our pockets and we have offered a scholarship to aspiring African-American entrepreneurs who are graduating from high school, who don't want to take on this insurmountable debt to go to college, or maybe they don't really have plans to go to college, but they want to try their hand at entrepreneurship. And so we offer them scholarship or seed money so that they can do that. I mean, when you look around, I'm excited now that I'm starting to see more Black businesses. And I always tell people when they have these initiatives and, if you're a Black business owner, with the government giving us a little bit of the seed money, latch onto it, grab it, get what you can, because this opportunity may not come again. I always tell them, strike while the iron's hot. It's here. Let's try and keep us in business. Let's do what we can and let's share the wealth. And that's what we've been doing, because it just can't stop with us, which is why it's so important for us to pass this along. I want there to be more Black business owners. And especially these younger group that's coming in, they're so innovative in how they see things. I have a set of twins, they're 25 years old, and when I hear them talk about things and they tell me about the direction of how we should pursue Gobble Dogs, it just amazes me. I have to be honest that sometimes I'm a little thrown off because their minds are just like so advanced. I'm just like, is that something that I could actually do? And it's just like, so I'm sitting here trying to ponder, how do I do this? So I really want to give these young people an opportunity and let them know that you can do anything and we're going to help you.
I'm so glad that you've created an opportunity to be an example in the community, because that's where we lack, right? We are not able to see ourselves, or young people are not able to see themselves. And when they're able to see themselves, they believe that it's possible. Even though, your parents were where they are, they planted the seed. And so
they did.
There was a part of you that knew you could do it. You knew you can do it. How you were going to do it, don't know, but you knew you can do it. And I think having that level of inspiration in your life is enough for you to say, I may not be able to start it right now, but at some point I am. But about healthy habits, right? Did you grow up with healthy? Like when you choose to have, and be because I believe you're being a disruptor, right? To the hot dog game. You are. And so
because I don't serve the traditional, beef hot dogs. I have, you still have the people that come out, these are all beef. I'm just like, no, they're turkey. Oh, well, I've not had a turkey hot dog before. Let me try one, or, oh, that's even better. I love it when they say that that's even better. But yeah, absolutely. I'm a disruptor because we aren't the traditional dog. We have put our own spin on it and we want to make it so that everyone can consume.
I want to see, what do you see as a trend in your industry? I'm noticing that, I see, different trends. What do you see as a trend and is here to stay?
Oh, man. Well, these third-party delivery services I think that's going to be here to stay because it's, and I think they are becoming more and more innovative, although we find that this is more profitable for the delivery services as is an opportunity for our businesses to get out there because a lot of these small businesses, especially the small Black businesses, it gives us an opportunity to get our product further, instead of just within the confines of, wherever we're located.
And I do want to share with the listeners, because I know your story of being, and that's, how we met, of being in the train station, metro train station, I believe. And then COVID happened and it just shut your business down. And so what you need to know about Gobble Dogs is that Gobble Dogs was part of the Best Fund that was sponsored by Chicago Trend. This is how I met Anna, and she shared her pitch while she was unable to receive the funds. There was a committee, we voted, and so they voted for other businesses that we've shared throughout this entire season. And she wasn't granted that money. And so while we're here, we really are here so that others can hear the story, support Gobble Dogs in various ways. But I do want to bring up the story of the moment COVID happened, where you were and how you had to pivot, and you're still in business after that, a tremendous and significant amount of revenue taken away.
Oh, absolutely. Because we lost so much. We lost so much from what we were used to. And as you stated, we did have to pivot. We didn't offer delivery service before, but then now we do. And part of the pitch that I was going for, I'm going to tell you how God works. Yeah. So when I was pitching to you guys, the pitch was for me to get a service delivery truck. And while you guys weren't able to fund me, provide funds to me, how about, because, it was for a certain amount of money and it was for a newer truck.
Yep.
Ended up getting that truck for a quarter of what I was asking for and having it outfitted. And so now I have a delivery catering truck that's now being used.
Well, so let me make sure I got this. Powerful. So, because I do believe God always, he doesn't give us no, he says, no, not at this time. Right. And so what you said is, I didn't get the money. I wasn't the winner of the Best Fund. I didn't. And it's okay. But what I did, I still got it. I still was able to get what I was asking for. Sure. From a different source. But that's powerful because what it says is that you were going to get it. But I do believe, had you not pitched this, you wouldn't have known, right, that it's necessary to go a different direction. And so sometimes it's also just the exercise, just the practice.
Oh, absolutely. It was an excellent exercise, something that I had never done before because, I've never had to present in front of people and I'm still a novice at it. What I always tell people that, I'm self-funded. I did everything my way. And of course, I made lots and lots of mistakes, Of course, I used like SCORE and I used like the Women Business Development Center. I used those resources. But for the most part, this, I had a vision and I pieced it together. Was it always the right way? Absolutely not. But it did get me from point A to point B. Sometimes a little more expensive than I really wanted to be, but I got there. So the experience of me being able to have to plug numbers and put things into a narrative so that I could pitch and sell to potential funders, it was a great opportunity. I wouldn't trade that for anything. It was awesome.
Wow. And I think that that's so important because I just believe pitching really helps you to really hone in on what you're selling, what you want from this deal, and stay very focused. And that's why I believe pitching is such a great exercise. Whether you win or not, I think it should be part of your whole business cycle, if you will, because I think it really does just help you really position yourself to know, what am I selling, right? And what can I get? And then helping with negotiating, because for you, it was like, okay, I didn't get this money, but I still need this truck. So, okay, God, what's next? Okay, I did that. Okay, what's next? And so I love that you continued and you still got what you needed. And we want that. We want, one of the things that I want is that people to know more about Gobble Dogs, but more importantly, how can we get more investments for you? How can people say, hey, I listened to this episode. I want to support, Chicago Trend and give them more money so they can fund the businesses that didn't get. That is what we want. That is
right.
And so that's the part that is missed. But oftentimes, those people that are making the decisions on investments typically don't know what businesses to invest. That's real talk. They just don't. They're like, okay, I know, but which one should we go after? Oh, okay. There's a business that actually did this. So there is a business. It's crazy. I went to Damon John had something years ago and people came up and pitched their business. Well, what they did do is there was a business there, Anna, that they supported the people that didn't win, because what they said was that didn't mean that your business wasn't valuable. Let us coach you a little bit more and we can help you in this regard. So it was pretty cool. So I'm not going to say that it was such thing as losers, but we have to get out of the mind that that it was a loss, right? When it was really a tremendous gain, because you got to go in front of people. And people, when that investor said, I just think it takes so much bravery to pitch. And I think it does. Tremendous amount of
It does, because you have to show your vulnerabilities. You have to present in front of people who, what I have experienced were people who may or may not believe in your idea. People who don't understand your concept, and you have to be vulnerable to those individuals and let them see a part of you that you don't want to be scrutinized for. You don't want to have to put yourself out for.
Anna, talk about being vulnerable. Like, we use that word personally, but professionally, is that something we're comfortable with? Is that the reason why we're not doing it? What do you think is behind that vulnerability?
I think it's a myriad of things. I mean, you have self-doubt. Sometimes people will look at others, and wonder if they feel like they can or can't do it. Like, my vulnerabilities was putting myself out there and them being able to critique me when I just wasn't ready. And sometimes that can shake people.
Yeah. But it did shake you, because what it did do is set you up. So it set you up all the way up, because you were able to acquire the equipment that you needed to produce more sales, right? At the end of the day, that's what you want, to produce more sales faster, because that is it. I do want to ask you this question. What 3 tips would you give, a small business owner or someone who's just like thinking about it? They've been using it as a hobby, because I do believe there's some businesses that are just hobbies, right? You just love to do it and you're not interested in building wealth per se, but you just enjoy it. What are some of the tips that you would share in this journey of coming from COVID, right? Having your business literally shut down to now it's thriving again. And so what 3 tips would you provide?
In regards to COVID, I would tell them to stay the course. Obviously, be smart about it. Look at your finances and see where you can make efficiencies. So I would definitely tell them to stay the course. Just in a business in general, we tell them to do their market research and know what they're going into. Make sure that they know their market. Or people would say, oh, there's a science to everything. Yeah, there's not a science to everything. Sometimes you just have to go with your gut. And I have relied on my gut more than not.
Absolutely love that, Anna. And reminding you to trust your gut. And I believe it's a gift that God has given us of discernment, right? And that to move forward. And then you know what you do? You call that family member who then says, girl, you can't do that. Girl, you can't do that. And then there goes that gut feeling, right? Now it's somewhere in the back. And I think that that's where we have to be careful. And I think you said that early on, planning your whole thing. Sometimes you just can't talk to your family and friends. And sometimes it's mom and dad, right? Sometimes it just is. And so I appreciate you sharing that, because I think that trusting your gut we've heard it, but it's very powerful when you're building a business. I love to ask this question for all of our guests is, what brings you joy?
Being able to leave a legacy for my children. Everything centers around my kids. Letting them see how I've worked and watching them support me and having them know that they can do it. And they are entrepreneurs themselves. Even though my son works in DC, he also does photography. My daughter is a freelance artist, and they are both professionals by right because they have sold their product and services.
That's awesome. So here you have it. This is crazy. You had a mother and a father who had entrepreneurial endeavors. Here you are, you have it, and now your children are doing it. I mean, that right there is powerful. And I think that's the reason why we have to continue, because what are you doing? Entrepreneurs produce other entrepreneurs, and other entrepreneurs produce other entrepreneurs. And then your scholarship. So I want to take this opportunity to make sure that we let people know how they can get in touch with you. So please share your website, your social media handles. If there's a phone number, a delivery, I like to be able to give it all. So when people are listening, if they got a pencil and a pad, they can write it down, or they can screenshot an audio clip and take it that way. So share with the audience your website and how people can connect with you.
So let me start with the scholarship. The scholarship is open to graduating high school African-American seniors in the Chicagoland area. We typically put out our call in February, and we request the applications be returned no later than April. We typically try to divide the money up as much as we possibly can. You will leave with something. So where you will have different tiers, everyone will at least leave with a stipend if they're not one of the top winners. So again, we've given away over $10,000 in scholarships. And those who have, just submitted their application, they left with $100 stipend, which people don't realize that $100, you can use that, because my $100 paid for a triple cooker and some decorations that I was able to start my business with. Okay. My social media handles will always be Gobble Dogs, and that's Gobble Dogs with 2 G's.
2 G's. 2 G's. Remember that. 2 G's. Mm-hmm. Gobble Dogs with 2 G's. And what's your website?
www.gobbledogs, that's G as in George, O, B as in boy, B as in boy, L, E, D as in dog, O, G as in George, G as in George, S.com. And my phone number is 331-234-1280.
Ooh, say that again, Anna. I want people to know you. We giving out.
Absolutely. It's 331-234-1280.
I wanted to ask this question. So the money that you get, or the profits that you get, you reinvest for your scholarship fund. Is that how you guys are doing this?
Some of that is reinvested, but believe it or not, most of the money comes from tips from our customers. The customers don't even know that money is for scholarships. They're just plopping money into the tip jar because we give such great customer service, and we convert those dollars to scholarships.
So you've heard it first. Like, Gobble Dogs not only is slinging dogs and hot dog disruptors, they provide excellent customer service. And we need to make sure that that is told. And you and I were talking about this, Anna, for many of us, we haven't seen that within Black businesses, right? So we are always sometimes with, well, they don't have the best service. Well, Gobble Dogs just said it. But the great thing that they're doing is that they're putting the money, they're taking that tip money and supporting young visionaries. I think that's just super powerful that you're able to do this. So Gobble Dogs, I just want to say this for the record. It's an impact business. To me, that's what it is, because you're making an impact. You're making an impact in the world.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Aside from that, we just really believe in giving back to our community. So it's just not the scholarships. We have served thousands of meals to the local shelters on the streets of Chicago. We're trying to raise voter registration awareness. We've turned our food truck into a voter registration site. People can really get a good look at who Gobble Dogs is if you go to our website and you look at the news articles that have been written on us.
Oh my gosh, this is just bringing me chills. But there is one thing that I forgot to ask, and I want to ask this because we had the pleasure of talking previously. And I want you to share with the audience your vision or goal from next year to later. And you shared it with me, and I just want you to share it with the audience. Gobble Dogs over the next probably 5 years, 2 years, maybe 5 years.
2 to 5 years, yeah. So before the pandemic, Gobble Dogs was slated to open up another spot. It was another metro spot, but it was going to be a brick and mortar, and it was going to have seating and all this wonderful stuff. And we were going to open at 47th and Lake Park. So in Hyde Park, 57th and Lake Park. So it was in Hyde Park, down the street from the University of Chicago. Yep. Unfortunately, COVID put the kibosh on that. And some other things, I can't just blame it all on COVID, but some things that, our landlord wouldn't commit to. So we had to walk away from that deal. So now the opportunity has come for us to be able to own a brick and mortar.
Own, the word own.
Own a brick and mortar. And this brick and mortar will give us an opportunity not just to have another Gobble Dogs, but it will allow us to be able to manufacture our own dogs, give our kids who look like us and kids who are in lower income thresholds an opportunity to come to our establishment and gain a skill set. And they can use that skill set to either start their own business or branch off and be a franchisee of Gobble Dogs. So we're in the business of teach one, reach one.
When I say I cannot wait because I told you this. I see Gobble Dogs. You got a Gobble Dog character that comes out to birthday parties. They just are outfitted. I just see it because, I know what McDonald's and Ronald McDonald did and Bozo and all that. I can
right.
Will be able to continue to make an impact. And that's what we want people to know about is that, while you're in the business of food, that you're also an impact leader and providing opportunities for the community and providing access, because when you own, you have access. And so you are owning your, soon to be building. And so I just want to remind our listeners that please, support Gobble Dogs, visit their website, follow them on social media, reach out to them if you have a student or perhaps some student that is doing amazing work and you want to direct them to their scholarships, but also go get some of them hot dogs. But I am a vegetarian, and I don't like to say I'm a vegetarian because I'm really a pescatarian, but I don't like to call myself a label, Anna. So I just say I just don't eat certain foods anymore. And so
we have the vegetarian dogs, so please don't forget that.
When you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, that actually brings me joy because I can never experience a hot dog anymore because there are options. So when I learned about the business, I was just like, oh my gosh, finally, I can enjoy a good game. So I'm going to be flinging dogs in my bag going to the baseball games. That's what I'm going to be doing.
Well, hopefully, at some point we're hoping in within 5 years, we'll be at somebody's ballpark. So you won't have to smuggle those veggie dogs in. We'll have them right there for you.
I will say this 100%. What we want to do is collaborate, allow for you to be able to collaborate. We talk about collaboration. And so, what are some of the places that you would like to collaborate more with? Is it ballparks and
It's a combination. I'd love to see us in ballparks. I'd love to see us in schools, we're the healthier option. And I'd love to see our, especially when we start manufacturing dogs, I'd love to see us in stores. My vision is that, how you'll go to different restaurants and we serve Nathan's hot dogs.
Yes.
My vision is that they'll have something that states we serve Gobble Dogs hot dogs.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. I see it. You heard it. Get Gobble Dogs in your favorite 5, because watch out for them, because they are doing some amazing things in Chicago, and we see that they'll be doing it in other cities. So look out for a new Gobble Dog in the city where you're from, because I can also see it in other cities. So if you're going to be manufacturing, you might be at a baseball game in California and see Gobble Dogs. So they are not limited in what they do. Please support them. Thank you, Anna, for an amazing interview on being a hot dog disruptor and impact leader. I'm so excited for you, and I hope there is more and more things that we'll get to see. I can't wait to see that ownership, that building where Gobble Dogs will be, but also supporting other businesses. So keep in touch with us on that. We probably need to bring you back so you can share with more stories on how that's going. I would love to have you back for that.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come and share my story.
Thanks, Anna. Look forward to it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in another episode of Black Business Matter. We hope to see you again. Thank you. Thank you for joining us this week on Black Businesses Matter podcast. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen so you will never miss a show. You can also follow us on social media at the L3 Agency and at Larvetta Speaks. If you love the show, leave a rating so that we can continue to bring you impactful episodes. You can also take the pledge and order our merch at our website at thell3agency.com. THEL3agency.com. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.